Bueno, mentre es microfonen, aprofito per parlar una mica de català. Aquesta taula, com heu vist, volem aprofitar 3 professionals amb molta experiència en el sector, diré, més de 12-15 anys d'experiència, potser en un altre sector dieu, això tampoc és tanta experiència, no? Però ja heu vist que és molt canviant. Volem aprofitar la seva experiència perquè ens expliquin quins canvis han vist, però sobretot com veuen el futur i diversos reptes que té el sector, ho tocarem una mica per temes. Convido a passar, t'asseus aquí, Jordi Soler, CEO de LVP, ara ell es presentarà una mica més. Gràcies, Jordi. Seu aquí. Thomas Lukedil.
Good enough.
Thank you. I ara vindrà el tercer que l'estan acabant de microfonar. Acabaran... Boop.
Is that me?
Is that yours?
I don't know.
No.
Okay, I'll switch. So basically, as I said, there are some hot topics that we've also decided with the panel that I want them to give this vision of where we are coming from. They've been in the sector, for me, it's like for ages, because I just started to know the sector 4 years ago. So your vision, for me, it's really interesting. And I'm sure we'll create debate. I'll let them talk, and even if they don't agree, I would love that. So because we are here to put in contrast different opinions and different point of views. So in 1 minute, I don't want to start without Michael. So Michael coming from Germany, Thomas
Sweden.
From Sweden. I was trying to remember the city, the place, but sorry, I couldn't.
The easy one.
Yeah, okay, the easy one. And Jordi is coming from Barcelona, closer.
Closer to heart.
Tic-tac, tic-tac. And last but not least, Michael Hennig, all the way from Germany. So to start with, I would like to introduce yourself, but also with the vision of also where you're coming from. We've called you, and I think with a good reason, pioneers and innovators, because you have a lot of experience in the sector. So if you can introduce yourself, but at the same time explain a bit where you are coming from.
Okay.
That would be lovely. So, Jordi.
Start? Okay.
Thank you.
Bueno, primer de tot, gràcies per convidar-me. Bon dia. Thank you for inviting me. Well, I have to be honest. I'm not a pioneer of this.
Don't agree.
I'm coming from Mediapro. In fact, LVP is the eSports business unit in Mediapro. Mediapro it's a media company. Let's say it's huge. We are working around the world. We have 7,000 people working. And 12 years ago, more or less, we started an internal discussion in terms of which was the role of Mediapro in the digital world. Nowadays, it's very easy. After 10 years or 12 years, it's very easy to talk about that. But 12 years ago, it was a very huge fight in Mediapro, trying to decide where we have to be and how, because Mediapro is a traditional B2B company. We produce content. Our customers are the broadcasters. So if we were involved producing content directly to the customer, in fact, we will be competing with our customers. So, well, it was difficult to find some place or some sector where we could be involved without fighting with or competing with our customers. So we found that eSports was something new that time, something interesting for us, something interesting for us to be in the digital world. eSports sounds like sports, which is not, but was easy. The music was easy in the board of MediaPro, and we decided to acquire LVP. Well, at that time, LVP was a kind of a startup, working only in Spain. And well, we are not pioneers, but well, we acquired LVP in 2016, more or less, and then we were involved from the scratch in this operation, and we were moving from the startup to a real company with studios, with a professional team, and working in the international expansion of LVP, because at that time LVP was only working in Barcelona, in Spain, let's say, and in 1 year we were working in Latin America, in Argentina, in Colombia, in Mexico. Thank you to the MediaPro officers, and now we are working in Middle East, in Asia, in North America. So nowadays we are not so huge like Freaks for You, for example, but well, we are very proud of the work that we did, and the pioneers are still in the company, and I learned a lot of the pioneers, and yeah, in 12 years many things have changed, and something that will be interesting to discuss with my mates.
Yes, we will. Thomas, if you can tell us a bit about your...
Yeah, I heard a previous panel, and everyone had been in esports for 20 years plus, and same with me. Early 2000, I got hooked on esports, and in short, it was not about the game itself, it was about the social elements. I mean, playing versus each other, organizing tournaments, producing events, pretty much getting involved in this community, which back then was really, really small. I would say the social hubs at that point was LAN parties, maybe internet cafes, that type of venues. Very, classic reference is basement, activities, or you had the LANs in, very dark environments. But that's where my passion comes from that era. What I realized after a while, after probably crashing a few startups back then, both within tournament platforms, teams, and events, I found my place on Earth at DreamHack 2008. DreamHack was in a very interesting position. They had 1 or 2 events in Sweden, were struggling a little bit. There was at the same time as the Lehman Brothers crash, so all the international esport companies pretty much disappeared. We catch that opportunity, started our own esports program, and started to also launch DreamHack in new locations. Actually first in Spain with Arturo, but later on also across entire Europe, around the world actually, Asia, South America, and so on. But we were very lucky, and it's connected to 2 things, 2 big waves in that point. I would call it the live streaming revolution, and the free-to-play model that League of Legends introduced first, but pretty much every game developer followed, because games turned from being a retail box to become a service. So those 2 waves we were extremely lucky to hit those 2 waves, that timing at the same era. So our growth from 2010 to 2015 was like skyrocketing. Obviously, we did a fairly good job as well on producing tournaments, events. But what we realized going back to the previous era is that we turned these internet cafes and LAN parties into festivals and into big arenas where we had sold out crowds. And now looking back on the last 10 years from 15 until now, I think we have really seen the effects of all of this. We have streamers and players that are turning megastars. We have, I would say a quite stable scene of arena events and big League of Legends championships and different championships you can follow. And I would say it's happened a lot during this 20 years. But I think what stays the same is the social elements. I mean, for me, hosting events, doing stuff, this year is the same feeling for every event. I mean, the social aspects of gaming is unrivaled, in my opinion.
That's very interesting. But before we deepen in some of the ideas you've tackled, Michael, tell us a bit about you and what your road has been in the sector.
Sure. So my name is Michael. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Freaks Free Gaming. I tapped into esports. I think at that time it wasn't even called esports, right? 2001. I was visiting an event in Berlin that I heard through radio that there is a Counter-Strike tournament. It was the first time I've ever heard on radio that there was a Counter-Strike tournament, because back then the game wasn't released. It was still in beta, I think back then in beta 5 point something. So super early stage. I think Counter-Strike back then was really something that people talked about. You had the community, but it was a game that was only played in those basements between friends. And I went there, and I thought we were too early, because there were like 2,000 people in front of the location. I was like, okay, interesting, maybe wrong date whatsoever. And then I realized there were 2,000 people in front because the location was full. So inside there was another like 3,000 people, and they also had a German championship back then, one of the first eSports championships that we had in Germany for Half-Life Opposing Force. Never liked the game, never played it. I was like, wow, Half-Life Opposing Force must be big, because there's so many people coming. And then my co-founders, that back then I just got to know, they said, well, we have the Half-Life Opposing Force championship here, and there's maybe like 100 people for that. So welcome. And then there's like 5,000 people of you coming for Counter-Strike. Well, we only play for 5 graphic cards. And this was the moment that I realized that what I was really passionate about, which is competitive gaming with my friends, is really such a big thing. And this was in 2001 already. And it was that point really that I decided I really want to make this passion point of mine my future career. Started working in this industry to make better events, because the event was horrible. Then joined the team, started working on that. The first years, Freaks was really focused only on the German market, running the first German championships in Warcraft and many other games. We ran some of the largest LAN leagues back then. So I think we had maybe 400 LAN events that we worked with, partnered with, something like 50 to maybe 6,000 people in Germany. And you could play for points in the tournaments. And then we would organize the championship final. People played for the first prize money. With something like 70,000 people for each season. Season was like half a year. So I think gaming was always already quite a big niche, depending on when you looked at it. We've tried to first grow it in esports. Then we realized around 2007, everyone is kind of like doing the same. ESL, back then, us, we were like, hey, we are esports, sponsor us. And around 2007, we realized a lot of brands that get more and more interested because of the size of the community struggle to really find their path in. So we decided maybe we should change our business model a bit and not just focus on ourselves, but also become the compass, the navigator for those brands, become an agency. And we were one of the first agencies that really had the knowledge of the first almost decade, switched that into consulting brands, helping them to tap into esports. Like, who do they really work with? How to sponsor a team? How to sponsor an event? What kind of activations you can do around that? So it's not just plain logo placement and so on. 2011, 2010, really then we saw the second growth stage of gaming and esports. And this was then also a stage of massive growth for us. We then opened also offices in Asia, in other parts of Europe, in the United States, and really started growing to become much more a global agency helping brands, but still always remained true to our core, running events, esports tournaments, and trying to develop esports ecosystems. So yeah, that's kind of my path.
Great, really interesting. I want to tackle something. Actually, this is a topic we had it was already in the guideline to talk about it, but today in a Spanish newspaper they are talking about it also. You've mentioned it is a sector that skyrocketed for a lot of years, I think in the pandemic even more. But now, especially 2023, has been a year of slowdown of the sector, and so I just wanted to raise this topic with you to see how you see this slowdown. Do you see it as a crisis, or maybe it's just a normal adjustment of the sector to be able to grow in another way? And how is that affecting, I'm not going to say your economy, but like the sector's economy? How do you see this? Whoever wants to.
I can start. No, but you're totally true, I would say. It's been, especially the last 18 months, have been, an esport business or sector that's been struggling. It's a couple of reasons. One reason is it was kind of crazy valuations of esport companies before the pandemic. I think the pandemic were kind of fine in terms, at least for my companies, to re-navigate, redesign how you work and, do more remote productions, for example, and all of this. But I think after the pandemic, especially brands, endemic brands, so sponsors in the industry have been pulling back a lot of advertisement budgets, and a lot of these teams and companies with crazy valuations have had a hard time to live up to the expectations from investors and people that have invested in these companies. But I can see light in the tunnel. But what this does is basically it pins out the weak flaws in the esport ecosystem, which is a heavy dependency on sponsorship, quite weak IP ownership situation with the publishers. And third, I would say very little direct digital revenues. So that's like the three areas I think esport needs to work on to create more B2C revenues. What I mean by that is obviously tickets to events, merchandise, but also digital revenues, which are not going only to the publishers, but directly to actually teams, tournaments, everyone organizing all of this. Because that's definitely needed to create more stability in the scene. So that's my short analysis of that.
I think we have to differentiate a bit, because the one perspective is the business perspective, and you're right with that. I think it's called eSports winter, and just like Thomas explained, a lot of businesses were built on very high valuations. And investors coming into this sphere, and I think we are now in a stage where it's the question of who really has a proper business model and who doesn't. Because a lot of companies, we have been bootstrapped until 2021 when we got our first investors in. So the first 20 years of being bootstrapped, and a lot of other companies that are competing in this market, they have had investor money either from day one or year one, and this has been not the most healthy competition for really creating great products, I feel. But if you look at the same time at the usage of games, I think there you don't see any winter, right? Because what we see is that from a media consumption perspective, everyone who's born is growing into much more becoming a gamer. And I think this is what, if we then consider where is esports going, where is competitive gaming going, where's gaming going, I would say the future is super bright still. It's just a question of how has the market grown based on business decisions of certain companies, individuals, and so on? What is really a necessity for that, for the ecosystem? What was only like a nice idea? And I think we are now in a stage of consolidation. We are in a stage of understanding better also, and maybe also refocusing, because I think in the early days, people, just like myself, who started based on passion, we were gamers, and we tried to create a great product for gamers. And I think in the past years, maybe it was too much about, I have a great innovative idea, but I didn't put the customer in the focus. And I think right now it's again going back to the roots and saying, let's put the gamers in the center of the decision making, create the best products for them, and they decide what they like and what they don't like. And there will be some that have great products and others that sadly don't. And the market will change a bit.
Very interesting. Jordi, you want to add?
A few things. First thing is, it's true that the market rocketed with the pandemic, but not in terms of revenues.
Okay.
Just was in terms of
Audience.
Nothing else, because in terms of audiences, at least from the point of view of tournament operators, we were so stable in terms of revenues or benefits. So who did money were the publishers. And this is one of the key things that they pointed out. Publishers is one of the key elements here. They are doing money. They are doing money more than ever. This is true. They had been working a lot in the pandemic, but they were working in developing new games, new things in the current games. Now, the gaming sector is having some layoff. Riot, Microsoft. I don't know why, honestly, because they have more revenues than ever, and they're trying to get more EBITDA, but there is no. Well, I have to be there, but from my point of view, there is no reason to do that. Okay, so publisher is one of the topics that we need to talk a little bit more, because at the end, the gaming, its performing well. The gaming industry is performing well. So as we are attached to this industry, well, we need to participate more of this industry. So I think the relationship that we have as a tournament operators with publishers, we need to reinvent this relationship. Because we have been working for free for them for many years. So this is one of the things that we need to work in next month. Secondly, as we said, in the pandemic, the audience rocketed. So who did money there? YouTube and Twitch. And now, Twitch has decreased the number of the hours or audiences, but has decreased in 2 years. Maximum 10%, maximum, no more. 10%, I think the figures are. So this is not the reason that they have been laying off 35% of the company. Twitch never has been a profitable business, never. We have been working with Twitch from the scratch, even what was not Twitch, was just in television. So this is also one of the key points. If Twitch is not profitable, and our relationship with Twitch is not profitable, we have a problem here.
Where are the profits? No? So
where are?
Yeah.
Where are the revenues? And where is the profit? We have been working for publishers, delivering high-quality content to Twitch for free, So, second one, platforms. The third one, you mentioned, teams and some companies that they had huge valuations with the promise of this will be amazing, and with the promise of things that never happen. And some venture capitals invest in those companies, and nowadays, these VC are realizing that this is not going to happen. Okay, crisis. Okay, this is not helping. It is not helping to the sector, but, well, okay, these companies will disappear, or these teams, whatever. So, okay, things are moving according with the economy. The audiences are there, but the problem is today there is more offer than ever in terms of content. You go to Twitch, you go to Netflix, HBO.
Everywhere.
So there is more offer than ever, and we are producing content, and we need to fight for the time of the customer. We need to think about what this customer wants. I fully agree with you. So, well, we need to refocus, we need to rethink, but the first thing that we need to do is to change the relationship with publishers and the platforms, because without that, we are not going to survive.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. For what I've gathered from the three of you, you see it more like a readjustment of the industry that needs to be readjusted to go to the next step.
Well, we need to find the business model, Michelle said.
It's all about where's the business model?
Where is the business model?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've spoken before about the relationship, or the synergies between, or the differences. We tried to explain those, the difference between esports and video gaming. Do you think, well, the first question, do you think we need to work on the synergies between these two sectors? Would they benefit from working even more close to have those synergies, or they are going on different ways? Because we said, okay, esports, do you agree with that? Esports is part of the video gaming industry. Sure. I mean, not all video games are esports, but all. Do you see the need of linking those two sectors even more?
A little bit like Ed Tomasi said before, that esport is just a small portion of the entire gaming industry. But I think one interesting aspect I'm thinking about is how everything is shifting right here, right now. I mean, Riot Games head of esports, what's his name, John Needham, something. Yeah. He went out, I think, just a few months ago, and obviously Riot have been probably the company that have spent most money on esports of any publisher, and he basically made a statement that we don't see League of Legends or the esport initiative anymore as a marketing tool at all. It's basically only retention and engaging the existing fan base. And I think this is important to understand also for new publishers coming into the space, that I think esport is a fantastic tool to obviously create content and create some new players, but it's actually more about creating retention and engagement in the game long term.
To increase the fan base.
And I think this is a huge shift, and they also talked about the media landscape, as you already brought up, that they are looking into their own pay-per-view platform, stuff like this, and I think this is a major shift for everyone in the industry, that Riot speaks this type of language, because you're totally true, we have been in the hands of Twitch, but I think it's changing actually now the coming years, both pay-per-view, EFG launched their own platform, Face It Watch, just a few days ago. There's new platforms like, you can discuss the seriousness of them, but Kick, there's one Finnish startup called Noise, there's a couple of few more, so I think Twitch also will be challenged the coming 3 years, which is a good thing for tournament operators, because the more selection of media companies and media outlets you can be on, the better it is.
Yeah, but at the same time, this is noise. It's difficult from the fan base to where to find the content, or...
I totally agree, but I think we see already a substantial shift to YouTube already, especially in the Swedish market, where it was only Twitch 5 years ago. Now it's actually live streaming on YouTube is extremely popular in our communities. Yeah. And especially new games. I mean, we're producing one new game now, GeoGuessr, which is also a new esport, very successfully on YouTube, where we have more viewers there than on Twitch, for example. So I think with new games and new communities, you can also place them on other platforms. But and also this is connected to that Twitch is decreasing their presence. There is no more, community management from Twitch on anywhere actually, and they were very relying on that the last 10 years.
Interesting. Let's go to the event side of the esports. How has technological innovation contributed to the success of esports events? And what new technologies do you see as key for the future of the industry? It's a bit related to the previous panel, but how do you see it? You've all been in events, either entertaining or... You see any technologies as
for me,
key?
There are three things here. One is in terms of new technology, we are saving cost. The new technology is allowing to us to produce the events fully different that we did 10 years ago, even in remote. We are producing events in remote, so today we can say that our real cost in big events is less than we had in the past. This is important. Second is the new technology gives you the opportunity to improve the experience of the people. And the third one, which is something that is coming, the interaction with the people, the spectators, will give us the opportunity to have new monetization situations, new areas to monetize and to create new revenue streams.
Yeah, what they were talking in the previous panel. And maybe they will allow what you were saying before to put the customer, the player in the middle even more.
Yeah, depends on the game, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We will be expectant to see what happens.
But I think tech-wise, I think when the real impact hits is basically when you get big shifts like the live streaming revolution, where anyone can, start a live stream, or if, free-to-play model, for example, it's these big models that gets, usually applied over the course of 2, 3, 4, 5 years. That can be a huge difference maker. And obviously with Web3 being spoken about in the previous panel, I think, in my opinion, it's maybe a few years away to really, hit that, real level of, or find the right use case for events. But it's definitely happening a lot of stuff on that end. And I think some event organizers are already testing different ideas around it.
Yeah. Interesting will be.
I think technology is really very important for us. I think there's good examples for when in esports and gaming we've done things first. Like we started video broadcasting before YouTube existed. And most people that I tell this to, they're like, there was a time that YouTube didn't exist. But yeah, and I think sometimes esports and the requirements that we have in order to really make games consumable for the audience requires tech that sometimes we really find very innovative solutions around before the tech is really developed, but also sometimes challenging old standards. So we used to work for a lot of TV stations, for example, because they wanted to put esports on TV. And when we started working with them, they were between puzzled and shocked about the technology that we've used. Because they said, we have certain expectations for the cameras. They always have certain brands. And it needs to be that brand to be professional TV quality. And there's a lot of brands that we started using over time. I think then in 2020, when we opened the latest studios that we have created in Berlin for our esports production, we had a TV station coming by. And again, it was a similar reaction from their side. They said the brands and the solutions that we use is far away from what they would use. But at the same time, they also said that probably with the tech that we are using, we are 5 years ahead of them. Just because of, I think, this market and the technology advancing much faster. We see that sports events, left and right, are great and amazing events. But if you look at proper esports event and how augmented reality and so on is being used there for years already, they now start looking into what we do in gaming esports and understand the technology that is already available and how they can make use of it. So I think it is super important. I think we try to be spearheading that all together and then also be innovators for other industries.
Yeah, that's, yes, a creator of technology for other sectors and other industries. That's really interesting. I also wanted to tackle, and we'll leave some minutes for questions, it's the issue or the question of the professionalization of the sector. It started more like gamers getting involved, and we're seeing also, we'll see another panel in the afternoon talking about education, but how do you see the factor of let's see if I say it right, professionalization? Is that a key factor for the development of the industry? Or on the other side, it's going far from the grassroots of the industry? You see it as a key factor?
I would say that it have developed very fast the last 5 years. I mean, the players are much more professional today than 5 years ago. They have coaches, they have supporting staff, they have scouts, they have, an entire, on that end. Same with player unions now, especially in League of Legends. It's, the players actually have their own unions on top of their managers and teams and so on, which I think is a sign of getting more professional. On the team side, obviously, with all the investors, there was some bad things, but the good things is that proper sports people are now owning these other teams. So obviously they bring in a lot of experience to these teams, how you should handle players, how you should approach the business and all of this. So I think professionally, the sports side is definitely getting more professional. I think on the business side, there's plenty of room for improvement. There's definitely a lot of serious, good companies in the industry, but there's also, I would say, a lot of startups, new things going on at the same time, which sometimes, are struggling with, being professional. So I think on the business side, in my book, it could get more professional.
Could improve.
But it's really hard to say exactly what's missing. I think, for example, Judit is pointing out, our relationship with publishers and media platforms. That could be one thing where I think the industry could work much more together than fighting each other. There's definitely industry standards that could be applied for most of the different stakeholders.
You want to add anything to this?
No, maybe not exactly the same, but that, of course, it's not the same, Bolivia than Spain or than Sweden. Each market has different level of professionalization, but there is everywhere. The last 5 years, things move very, very fast, but of course there is grassroots, there is amateurs, there is professional teams, but I think there is a space to improve for sure, but things are going well in this direction.
Great.
I think professionalization is really a topic that's very depending on the market that we're talking about. I mean, we are all coming out of developed markets, totally different with emerging markets. Yep. They have different technology. It's much more mobile, for example. It's about really the first grassroots initiatives, then organizing the play and so on. So I think there is no one solution for everyone in the world, but I would say that a lot of the initiatives that we see that lead to further professionalization are really good. So we, for example, also heard in an earlier panel about the visa issues. Germany, for example, has established a specific eSports player visa, I think 2-3 years ago, both for players to really move to Germany and get a visa for their living and for working as an esports player, but also short-time visa for players to attend only short-time events. And this has been helping Germany as a country to become more attractive because a lot of the countries in the world haven't solved that. And I think those things of improving really have a business impact on the countries, have a positive impact on the companies doing business there. But yeah, I think it's really a question of which country are you in. We also know some people in other countries who do business there. They look at what we do in Sweden, in Spain, in Germany, and they're like, "You're so professional already," and it's great to see that. But with what we do, they could never do that, because if they wouldn't be in their own kind of limbo, they wouldn't survive in the emerging markets. So therefore, yeah.
And I think one aspect of this is also that all of us from Europe, we compare to football and traditional sports and all of this, but I think we should...
There is that tendency.
I think we should compare esports more with modern sports like MMA, let's say action sports with X Games and so on. They have a very similar approach. They build global first and have very commercial companies running their tournaments, and it's a very unstructured ecosystem. I think what esports really need to focus on is everything below that, top league. The grassroots and everything in between is still very, I would say, not structured in the best possible way. In some countries it is, but let's say across Europe it could be a much better system how to structure esports. I'm personally like the Wild West a little bit because it creates a lot of innovation, but I think over the coming 10 years this will be a priority for esports to grow and get more mainstream recognition.
Yeah, that's interesting. So one of the things we are really making, one of the conclusions really it's an evolving sector. So it's under development in the good sense. So a lot of things still need to improve, change, adjust, etc. Just let's try in 2 minutes. If you have to give an image and vision, what will happen in the next 10 years? Which is a lot of years for the esports, but which tendencies would you see? Try to...
I can start. I believe in the rise of the esport parent. It's a little bit personal, but I think it's true as well when I look at demographics, stats and everything. I mean, I'm born 85. I have 2 kids. They're a little bit too small to play League of Legends yet, but they definitely play Roblox and so on. Mm-hmm. And I think my generation will be the first generation of many parents that have first-hand experience of actually playing esport games, competitive games, all of this. So I got a lot of support from my parents, but they were doctors and doing other stuff, and they didn't know anything about the games. I think if you look at all other sports, football, anything, I mean, it's the parents voluntarily, driving them to the training court, but also are engaged in how does it go in every match, and how, some of them become trainers, some of them become coaches. And I think this will happen the coming 10 years. So, my son now, 8 years old, he already asked me, what team should I cheer on? Wow. And I learned myself in ice hockey, for example, what team I should cheer on from my father. So I think the fanhood will change rapidly the coming 10 years because of this. So I think the rise of the esport parent will be also changing the landscape a lot, because then you get adult people with real experience to actually be engaged in esports.
That's a good point, the new generations and how they relate to the parents.
I would like to add the fans paying for the content.
Okay, cool. And you have a headline, Michael, for the next 10 years?
I think this is not only for esports, but also for competitive gaming. I think we as a society will understand how we can make better use of gaming to solve some of the society issues that we're facing. So I think, to give an example, a lot of children today face hate speech. And I think to counter this, a lot of adults struggle. How can we do that? Yeah. And I think gaming as a tool can be used for so many things in order to make it a change to the better. And this is discussions that we currently have with politicians that get it. And we see that the first health insurances in Germany doing campaigns around that. They get awards for that. I think, gaming, competitive gaming, esports is so much more than just putting the best players on stage, but really making use of it in the society, to really anchor it in the society, to become more mainstream. And this is not just about the viewer base, how many people do we reach, but also the better understanding of what can you do with gaming esports.
That would be another 45 minutes panel to talk about the social impact, the education in this sense, and how can it be used for the better. And but if that's okay with you, if you don't want to add anything, I would go if the audience has any question.
Well, first of all, thanks for all the insights. It's been quite awesome to hear having so many faith on how young can develop in the next coming years. But one thing, you were speaking about traditional sports and after about extreme sports, MMA. And one of the things that I have in mind for future in esports is, and you spoke also about publishers who are getting the money, like in sports, not just traditional, but like extreme sports too, no one has them, right? No one owns like sports, right? Whereas esports, we see that publishers own their own game, they apply their own rules, their own meta, right? They update the game when they want, so they can even change the whole competition system in just one day because they just decide to switch the heroes, right? Do you see this changing in some way? Is this something that could ever happen?
It's a difficult question.
Yeah. I hope it changes.
No, but
I think the challenge is obviously the ownership of the actual IP, and that's where, for example, Web3 could be a solution, but I don't see that happening very, very soon, because you need to get control of Steam and the major platforms to be included in that setup. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any impact. But it's definitely the core question of esports, how to change that. But I think we see different approaches as well. If you look at Valve, for example, with obviously with Steam and Dota and Counter-Strike, they are, I would say, very hands-off from esports, because they obviously running their own app store. They're most interested in getting 30% cut on all the transactions and then have a free market where everyone compete with each other. While Riot have been extremely protective and every little detail is coordinated. So I think we see already different approaches, and then obviously you have some really scary examples, but they like Overwatch League as an example, but they have completely failed. So I think that era is almost over, where the publisher tried to brute force success. No one have been successful on that end. I think Riot definitely have a tight grip, but they are also quite open to work with new things and develop the
I think the key thing is, depends on the publisher, but the key thing is to create new IPs together with publishers.
Yeah.
It's the only way that I can see that could be profitable for both.
I'm not sure if I would say a new IP, but maybe a new way of thinking.
But
just
new
because
IP, new.
I think in the end we have to understand making a good game costs a lot of money, and the publishers have to make back the money. And there's also a lot of marketing that they do that's good for the community. Maybe not like for esports per se, but they need to make money from the games, right? And I think this is again the long play. We come back to the question of who do we serve? We serve the players. And the players decide which games they play, and they have a lot of influence. And I think this is the influence that also some publishers today do not really understand yet. We saw that some publishers in the last years have been super successful. They stopped listening to the community to a good degree, and they were paying the bill for that because they saw people moving to other games. I think there's just a certain logic in the market where my hope is that it will lead to more communication between tournament organizers, teams, players, and so on, to find smarter solutions moving forward.
Okay, so sharp, 45 minutes. So thank you so much for your contributions.
Thank you.
For me, it's been very interesting. I hope that for everyone else. And now we're gonna finish for the morning, do a bit of lunch, whoever wants to join us, and do a bit of networking. And we'll come back at 3. Yeah, at 3.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.